Welcome to the Powered by Age-Friendly City Zoomcast reality-style podcast.
We are movers and shakers, shaking up the old notion of silent, helpless, invisible seniors.
This is a new series of podcasts funded by the City of Vancouver and the 411 Senior Center Society.
As PBA AFC ambassadors, we
raise awareness,
share our original stories and poems,
inform, advocate, and involve seniors in discussing important social issues.
In short, these podcasts will help us,
you, in creating an age-friendly city for Vancouver today,
tomorrow the world.
You can hear us everywhere podcasts are heard. Hello and welcome to Powered by Age, our weekly podcast creation. This is an eclectic show where we do have a theme, but we have poetry, creative arts, and then themes related to issues that seniors are interested in. This group has been going since February, where we started in a physical location. Now we carry on through Zoom, and we are going to be introducing themselves, starting with me. I'm Charlotte Farrell, the host, and to my left, I'm going across the gallery. My gallery at the left is Brian. Brian, introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Brian Phillips. I'm with 411. I'm not very communicative, being shy, but this is the first time I'm on Zoom, and it's quite an experience for me to see other people and talk to them. And I'm sure I'm going to enjoy myself and learn quite a bit. Thank you.
Okay, Neil.
Yo, my name's Neil Ryan. I'm a retired business consultant. You know, the definition of a consultant is somebody who goes and buys a briefcase so they can tell you what you already know. And I enjoyed that for a long, long time. And now I write poetry and short stories, and I have one of each today. Just whatever the topic is, I have a poem and I have a short story. And welcome, Brian. This is as good as it gets with COVID-19. So,
Thank you.
Marion.
Hi, I'm Marion Pollock. I'm a member of the 411 board and a seniors activist.
And Marion has a good announcement today for us about special guests we'll be having next week.
I'm sorry, I can only be on for about an hour.
Well, we're only going to be broadcasting, Zooming for an hour, so that'll be great. Leslie, and just before Leslie, can I ask, again, if people will just touch your mute while you're not speaking so that sounds in your beautiful abode will not carry on. Okay, Sylvie?
Hi, I'm Sylvie Anderson from the West End Seniors Network. My life has just exploded with activity this week after 3 months hibernation. Hardly had time to get the sleep out of my eyes, but it's all good. It's all good.
Wonderful. Pat?
Hi, I'm Pat Hogan, and I'm with Quirky, the Queer Imaging and Writing Collective for Elders, which has been going on now for 13, 14 years. And I've been for many years a events producer, concert producer. Yeah, that's all I'll say now.
Okay, and we have twins in the in the window. We have Joel and Luke.
Hello. Hey. I dropped by Luke's place, so I figured I'd stick on here for a little bit. Say hi to everyone. How y'all doing? Good, good?
Good, good. And Luke?
Yeah, I'm Luke. Good to see you guys. Sorry I missed it last week. Yeah.
And these are our technical coaches, technical backbone for both the broadcast and then as we have our listening sessions of excerpts and parts of these shows. Judith.
Hi, I'm Judith Rainey, and I'm with 411 Senior Center and the South Granville Senior Center. Glad to see you again, Brian, and hope to keep up with everybody, and it's good to see you all again.
Wonderful. Jenny.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Jenny Chung, and I've been getting emails about this. So I thought I'd just take a look, and been listening to a couple of your podcasts, and then I'm just want to observe and see, what's going on here. Thank you.
Welcome. I think we met you at we recruited at a few places, and somewhere you put your name down that you were interested.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Thank you. Gail?
Hi, I'm Gail Harwood, and I'm a member of 411 Seniors. I do poetry, and I'm still working on my novel, but I've had to get a little political this morning. I wrote a letter to the Speaker of the House of Commons in Ottawa, supporting Jagmeet Singh. So it's a pot boiler, that's for sure.
All right, thank
And
you.
it's nice to see you again, Jenny. I remember talking to you at the 411 Seniors. And welcome, Brian, and nice to see everybody else again.
Yes.
Oh, Robin has joined us. We're right at our introducing each other ourselves part.
Oh, great. Hello. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been able to join you. Work has been a little crazy with all of the reopening plans and just the political climate of things. I am part of the team that will help you bring your ideas to fruition. I've talked to some of you, I think, on the phone, but just also want to make sure that you know that you can reach out to me with questions. And I'm a radio maker, so that's where hopefully my skills can come into play in helping with this podcast project.
Okay, and as a couple of you have mentioned political climate, I have a statement that Leslie sent me, and it is the 411 Senior Center Society Statement on Racism. Anti-Indigenous and anti-Asian racism has increased in our community, and so has racism increased against members of the Black community in British Columbia. The 411 Senior Center is expressing our solidarity with those communities and opposes racism wherever it exists. Our members come from a variety of different communities, and we're distressed when Black seniors recount stories of racism and discrimination. Sadly, these stories span decades and include 2020. We know that when any senior faces racism and discrimination, we are all weakened. The 411 Senior Center knows that the fight against anti-Black racism and police brutality is based in the history of slavery, oppression, and colonization of Indigenous communities and Black people in North America. The 411 Senior Center is a few blocks away from Hogan's Alley. Hogan's Alley was home to Vancouver's Black population for many years. It was a safe, strong, and vibrant community. Unfortunately, the construction of the Georgia and Dunsmuir viaducts displaced this community. We know the history of Hogan's Alley, and we don't want it to be repeated. Anti-Black racism is a destructive force in our society that negatively affects seniors, their families, and our communities. We need to ensure Black seniors that they are safe, coming to and from our center while participating in activities or receiving assistance from our center in all aspects of their lives. In the past months, the 411 Senior Center has been appalled by the increase in anti-Asian racism. The 411 Senior Center is committed to ensuring that all people, including Indigenous, visible minority, and Black seniors, are treated with dignity and respect. We know that racism hurts us all. The 411 Center wants to build a world where fairness and justice rule. Racism anywhere is unacceptable. The 411 Seniors work takes place on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So today we are doing 3 things. We have part of the purpose for this podcast is to demonstrate a transfer of technology to seniors. So at one of the first levels was everyone getting to used to using their phone and getting onto the computer. And then one of our group, Sylvie, moved ahead to another level of technology using her Zoom room to do an interview. Among the types of things that we have identified we'd be doing, one is doing lifeline interviews of seniors doing atypical things, or seniors aging wonderfully. So we are going to be hearing this interview that Sylvie had as one of our special content features today. Pat and Chris have mentioned a video that they made that was made by Quirky as part of the, well, I'll let Pat actually introduce and say what it's about. But that's another thing that we will be seeing today. And then for next week, we're planning ahead. We're working toward being a week or so ahead. So for next week, Marion has 2 guests for us, and she wants to get a sense today of some of the questions we'd like to have those guests answer. So Marion, may I give you just a couple of minutes to say who those guests are?
Okay, these guests are after talking to Charlotte. I didn't make up these guests in my own mind. They're Vancouver City Councilor Jean Swanson, who certainly has been an ally to 411 Senior Center. She's a senior and she's an amazing advocate. And the second one is Marcy Cohen, who is involved with the BC Health Coalition and the CCPA. They just put out a document on seniors in care, which is quite amazing and quite shocking. And as well, Marcy's been one of the central advocates for community health centers, which would really benefit seniors. And they just asked, if we could get some of the questions beforehand.
Okay, so did everyone hear clearly who the 2 people are? Okay, can we ask if there's some questions that you would like to have the representative from City Council to answer?
Yes,
one thing that came up is now I don't know if City Council can do anything about this because the Stanley Park is under the aegis of the Parks Board, but in terms of shuttle buses, I really like the idea of having shuttle buses going through various places in the park because I know myself with various things happening to my body, I can't walk that far, and I love walking in the woods. So I, drive over to Camosun Bog and park the car and just do the circles, and it's just gorgeous. But I know that wherever I park the car, and the reason why I'm in my car is because my oncologist said, "You're not taking public transit, Gail. No, you just stay away. You don't want to get sick." And I said, "Okay." Otherwise, I'm on public transit, and I love it. So I would ask them how would the shuttle buses into Stanley Parks and other parks like that be feasible? And I know there's lots of extra little putt-putt buses around, and what they thought about that idea to help people who are not very mobile to get into the park.
Okay, I think there was another question people asked the week that they ask questions for the city plan, and that is, can there be shuttles that might stop from one senior center to the other, taking people to a special event like Culture Days? They had special events at different places, and there's and another question people have asked, sometimes they announce that there's a 311 number you could call during the homeless era. We on the radio station broadcast where the warming stations were, but the warming stations aren't always accessible. So if the city has something like warming stations or cool down places, is there a way of having shuttles to get people to them? Other questions people might have?
Marcy's a healthcare advocate. She's not the seniors advocate. But I think that for seniors, there's a whole bunch of issues. One is affordable housing. One is, rent evictions and demo evictions on seniors. I think those are two big ones.
Yes, we have, there's some people who, a few people that were coming when we met at the 411 Center who were at the women's shelter, and some have lost their accommodation. So we don't have a way of contacting them. And so I think being able to know what has happened to people since they put people into hotels. Are they, some don't have, some were given a cell phone by the downtown women's shelter, but we really have no way of contacting those people that were on our telephone list because they don't seem to have a phone and they don't have the internet. Okay, Sylvie, did you have any questions with healthcare? I know you've made comments a few times about healthcare issues.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but maybe if I think of something, can I get in touch with Marion or?
Yes, she's shaking her head. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'll do that. I'm not very good off the top of my head, so I'll think about it. Unfortunately, my email and home phone number were on the flyer. So I've had about 6 emails, but one has been around mental health services that sometimes it's at the extreme. People don't want to be made to feel like they have to have a 5150 crisis alert, that there should be accessible mental health services or counseling, emotional counseling. We spoke with someone who is an advocate for people coming back to work in the transportation services, and a lot of them feel guilt. There's a lot of older people that are being asked to come back to work for positions that people that aren't filled, and just the guilt, whether there's ageism, if there's anything that the mayor's office or the city council is doing to prevent ageism, or just people blaming older people for COVID, getting more understanding. We hear a lot of commercials about washing your hands, but what commercials or what PSAs could be made about the value that we bring. Some of our previous sessions when we were recruiting people said that seniors feel invisible and that we have a reservoir of knowledge, but that reservoir of knowledge isn't respected. So in what ways can seniors be included when city council or other groups are making decisions about things that affect seniors? That's all I can think of, but I'll also look through some of the things people have emailed me, Marion, and send that to you as questions. How should people get in touch with you if they do have something that they think of that they want to share? How would they get in touch with you?
marion.pollack@gmail.com.
Can you say that again?
marion.pollack@gmail.com.
Okay, so
I'm just wondering, Marion, how much work or collaboration there is with the City Council and the Seniors Advisory Committee.
I'll write this down. I'm just writing this down.
Okay. I think Chris is still on the Seniors Committee. I'm not sure, but I know other people who are.
Okay, this is the day before Juneteenth. I've been sharing that, I don't know, how many of you know what Juneteenth is?
Well, I've heard of it, but know very little about it.
I know a little about it.
Well, Juneteenth was actually the day when slavery actually ended in the United States. The Emancipation Proclamation was passed, but the state of Texas refused to acknowledge it. And the government didn't make them acknowledge it. So people sent their slaves to Texas. It effectively extended slavery. The bounty hunters went up into the north, but bounty hunters also went into Canada looking for people who were freed, and whisked them back, brought them back to the South. So there is a connection to Canada. Dr. Camille Tucker had an exhibit at the Vancouver Public Library 2 years ago, and she has clippings from papers at different places across Canada, both clippings where people ran ads about runaway slaves with money that they were offered, and people who were involved in slavery. So it's not just an American holiday, but it's a great celebration. A lot of people are celebrating, but it's also connected to the protests because there are things that are still continuing. Human trafficking of Black, brown people from other countries, people who are refugees, people who are whose immigration status is at jeopardy. Some of these people are being into human, slavery. There's a program called Free the Slaves, and Free the Slaves, they're children in countries around the world that are still in slavery, where they are made to work in the mines or made to work on fish boats. So Juneteenth is just a reminder of the reason the protest has gone on so long and it has such an international connection is that slavery is still not over. At places where people don't uphold the law or don't stand up for justice, then slavery is able to continue. Okay, today we're going to be sharing Sylvie's wonderful interview. Sylvie braved the technology of Zoom and the phone and made an international call. So we are going to do the technology offered by Luke. We're going to hear her interview. And we have a thing that we do here that some of you that have called regularly understand, and it's called RIF. It's reflective, informative, inspiring, friendly feedback. So we'll have just a slight bit of feedback, and also know that it's a stepping stone in technology because the sound, we have sound challenges just within our weekly calls. Sometimes, depending on how people move, depending on what's happening in their room, different sounds are picked up. So you will hear some of the small sound challenges, and then also know we are going to be doing excerpts from these programs, and we're also going to have a spinoff where things like our interviews will just be their own Zoom and be available on the listening sessions that we offer the public. So without further ado, let's hear Sylvie's interview.
Hello, my name is Sylvie Anderson. I'm talking today to a geologist who has worked for 36 years in the oil and gas industry. Her career has spanned working on oil rigs from South America through Asia, through Europe, all the way to New Zealand. Christine Telford joins me from her home in Northumberland, England. Hi, Christine, and welcome to the program.
Hello, and thank you.
So the first question I want to ask you is, what were your favorite subjects at school?
My favourite subjects at school were very much based around the sciences, maths, physics, chemistry. I loved geography, especially physical geography, volcanoes, mountains, plate tectonics. Very much interested in the natural world around me.
Right, yeah. So those were kind of non-traditional subjects for a woman, a girl at that time, right?
It's true, yes. And I guess I suppose I was one of only a few girls in the class, especially when we got into our later years when we chose our subjects for exam subjects. But I guess it never really registered that much to me. It was just what I was interested in.
Yes. So you did a degree in geology at Reading University, is that correct? And then you chose to go into the oil and gas industry. Why is that?
Yes, I did do my degree in geology at Reading. However, I had hoped to go to the local university, Newcastle, to do mining geology. I live in an area of the UK that is on carboniferous sediments. So we used to have a very big mining industry in this area. And that's what interested me. Unfortunately, Newcastle University wouldn't accept me onto the course because I was female. And at that time, they didn't have any women working as geologists in the mining industry. So at that point, somewhat perplexed, I went to Reading and studied geology. When I graduated in '82, there was a general difficult time economically, and both mining and quarrying were in a terrible slump. And in fact, so was oil and gas, but the only jobs that were available were in oil and gas. So that's where I had to focus my efforts. And I did. Unfortunately, it took me 2 years and over 500 unsuccessful job applications to get into the industry. And when I did, it was really through knowing somebody in a company who was already working in a company that I'd actually been on my course with. And it was through a chance meeting with them that I was brought to the attention of the company that he worked for. And a couple of weeks later, a position became available in Norway, offshore Norway. And at that point, women were working on oil and gas rigs in the Norwegian sector of the North Sea. And so they offered me the position.
And that position was as a mud logger, is that right? Which has nothing to do with making pies. No.
Well, you do spend a lot of time with mud. The drilling process is that you pump a fluid we call it mud, but it's a chemical fluid, and you pump it down the well, and it comes out at the bit. It brings all the rock chippings back to surface, and that's the major part of a mudlogger's job. They collect the samples, and they also collect all the engineering data that's happening around the rig. And you work in a laboratory which is inside a container. It's containerized offshore, and you catch the samples, and you record the data, and you monitor all of the engineering that's going on the rig, and you create a document which details everything that's just happening on the rig. I mudlogged for quite some time. I think it was about 3 years, and then I was asked by a company to become a well site geologist on one of their wells, which I did. And the well site geologist also works on the rig. They supervise the mudloggers and the data engineers and all the other geological specialists that are on the rig, and they communicate back to the operations geologist back in town. The well site geologist gathers all the data together from all of the various specialists and then makes decisions on the progress of the well based on what they see. The communication back to the operations geologist is done. I moved into operations geology, so it's a natural progression of a career progression through those different jobs. And I ended up as an operations geologist about 20 years ago, and I've continued in that ever since. The operations geologist works before the well has ever started. They work to plan the well with onshore geoscientists and engineers, and then when the well is being drilled, they go into the execute phase and they work with the people actually at the well site on the installations.
I see. So it's true to say that working on these rigs, you were frequently the only woman there. So I just wonder what it's like living in close quarters with men for an extended period of time.
It has to be the best of times and the worst of times. I've made some fantastic friends that have become lifelong friends from meeting them on the rigs. And I've also had to work with people who really I would have preferred to have crossed the road to avoid, but you must, under those circumstances, you must actually make sure that you treat everybody the same and with respect, and try and do the best job you can. It is very difficult. It's a difficult world where you leave your home, go to work, you stay there for a number of weeks. You not only have to work with these people, you have to socialize with them, you eat with them, you spend all of your time with them, and then sometimes you have to go and share a room with them as well, and sleep in the same dormitory as them. So it is very difficult, and people from all different walks of life, with all very different characters and all very different styles of living and morality and values, and you just have to make sure that you get on with everybody.
Yeah. So what would be some advice, if you had to give advice to women seeking careers in a male-dominated industry, what would you say?
Well, I think the first thing for me was always that I just had to be myself. If you are going to pretend to be somebody else, you've got about 35, 40 years to keep up that pretense, and it's a hard job. From my experience, I would say that you should never try to be one of the boys, because you're not, and not to be a shrinking violet either. You just have to be yourself, have a good sense of humour, be inclusive. You've got to work hard. You've got to be professional at all times. You've got to be prepared to be purposeful, and you do sometimes have to stand your ground. You need to earn your respect. In those sort of situations, people are watching and judging, and it's very hard when you're in those circumstances, when you are very alone, to actually maintain that sense of purpose and dignity. For me, I would say to anybody starting that once you start in your work, you have to remember that it's a real double-edged sword. You have very much heightened visibility, which can be a good thing, but associated with that, you've got to be good at what you do. Because if you have heightened visibility, people can see very quickly whether or not they would say that you were good or indifferent or possibly worse at your job. But that's something that you can actually take and use as a big benefit. I've always had two rules whenever I've been working on the rigs, and I've always stuck by them. And the women who I've trained to go and do the same job as me, and to do the same job actually offshore, is that two rules. One, you don't put your underwear in the laundry. And two, you don't eat a banana in front of anybody.
Good advice, I would think. Thank you, Christine. Thank you very much for being our guest today. And good luck with the rest of your career. You're busy teaching, I understand, these days. Yeah.
That's right, yes. I think when you get to a certain age, people just want to know what you know. So a lot of my time now is mentoring and coaching and lecturing.
Yeah, okay. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Okay.
And you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so do we have a couple of people that would like to give us short feedback? Brian.
Very interesting interview, which we listened to, I think. Sounds like a very courageous lady. And I think you always get insights from people's lives, especially if they have meaningful lives. And you can apply that, I guess, to your own life. I'm a man, she's a lady, but I can understand where she's coming from. And I think, like I said, I can learn a lot from it. And I'm sure most of you feel the same way. And so it's very enjoyable for me to come here to listen, to be part of the group. And I hope someday I'll be able to contribute in my own small way. Thank you.
I want to say I did a lot of work on the oil patch. I've been on 100 rigs, at least 100 rigs, everywhere in the U.S. and Canada. And I never met a woman, not one. So I'm sorry I didn't get to meet our interviewee because she sounds like a delightful person. And they wouldn't let me on the sour gas wells, but because of the beard. So yeah, that was really interesting, really interesting.
I want to thank you, Sylvie, for braving using the Zoom technology and the questions that you asked. I thought it revealed quite a bit about her life and give some guidelines for someone that might want to explore that atypical occupation.
Thank you. She's quite a woman. She is quite remarkable.
And so what she did is an example of one of the categories that we were looking for, or that people said they wanted to do as podcasters, and it's called Lifeline interviews. We are, 411 Center is going to be one of the places that's collecting a repository of interviews about people. So it could be someone that you like, someone that you admire, someone that you think just made a contribution to life that you too might pick and want to do an interview about. I'm going to say that if there are people that are particularly interested in doing an interview, you could put it in the chat box. We're going to, before the end of today, bring up 4 topics that people, or 4 areas that people have said that they were interested in doing, and ask people who are interested in them. Because as I said last week, this whole group, different people in small groups will have a mentor that will be working with them on developing their presentations. As we go into July, each week we'll have a particular main theme, like health, housing, mental health, some of the other areas people have mentioned. And so Adele, Robin, I will be working with 2 or 3 people that have for that area said that they wanted to do something. I'll be working, for example, with, they're cutting down trees or doing something noisy on my street, I'm sorry. So that's something we'll ask you to, to put in the chat box, and maybe even by show of hands, so that as we go into this week, they will be calling you and doing a small group talk, so that this is, as Director Leslie frequently says, it's a senior-led program, so people won't be telling you what to do, but there are people that are interested that they want to do something on health. We have Emily, Judith, a few other people that aren't on today that want to work, Gail, that want to work on health topics and that have that as their background. Both Chris and Pat have talked about stories that have been done by other members of Quirky that they want to bring forth. So we'll have a mentor working with you on the stories. Again, with the poetry, pretty much at every session, we will have a couple of poems, and the poems might be related to what the theme is. So if the theme is emotional health, there might be poetry related to that. But that's what we're working toward. Also, each week there's going to be a clinic, and that clinic, regardless of what topic you are working on, you will be entitled to go to. There's no fee for the clinic, but at the same time, it's not it's not something that may be, repeated again and again. It'll happen that week, and if you're able to get on it, then it will be on. So this Wednesday at 10 a.m., there's going to be a clinic around the sound and headsets and people who are wanting to do an interview. And Jesse, who is the Public Affairs Director at CJSF and who trains volunteers around short interviews called Streeters, is going to be doing that clinic. So it'll be the same number that you dial in to get into the show. It's just that you would dial it in at 10 o'clock this Wednesday. And other weeks we'll have other clinics, but because other people have had sometimes challenges with their sound, it'll be interactive. So seeing things that you do, whether it's good, better, worse? Does this make it better? Does this make it worse? Is it better with your headphones on or off? And even some of the kinds of leading questions that you can ask when you only have a short time to do an interview. Okay, so now another thing that we're looking at is another step in technology, which is a video. Sometimes people in the group may be involved in making videos. Adele, a couple of weeks ago, her picture's not up, but you see her name down there. She's with us. She is a filmmaker and has made films. The people within Quirky work together to make a film. So Pat, I'm going to ask you to tell a little bit about this video we're going to see.
Okay, so this video, it's amateurish. It was done on Zoom by many of the Quirky members. I was thinking there was another video too that was done a few years ago, which was done professionally. So that would have been, maybe I can see it at another point. It focus is different. So this was put together by us for the IDAHOT, which is the International Day. Oh boy, it's really noisy outside my place. International Day against homophobia and transphobia, and there was the whole thing was done virtually, of course, because we could. It's usually, forget when it is, April or May, but anyway, it couldn't happen. It's usually a big breakfast, and it's a fundraiser for Community, which is the LGBT community center down on right off of Davie Street. So I'm not really sure how long this is. Luke, do you know? Did you know how long the video is?
Yeah, it's about 3.5 minutes.
Oh, okay, good. I was afraid it might be too long because I know we had, what we did, we have a, that video, the one that I just mentioned that was done a few years ago professionally, and another PowerPoint that has music over, and that's all been put together as one entry into Surrey Pride will be having a virtual Pride on June 27th, and we're part of that. So if anyone's interested in that, you can Google Surrey Pride. And so there'll be a lot more than just us, of course. So anyway, yeah, all right. So this is something that we did, and it was presented at IDAHOT Day.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
We are Quirky.
Quirky stands for Queer Imaging and Writing Collective for Elders.
Thank you for inviting us to this event. Quirky is a group of 22 LGBTQA2S plus elders. We've been meeting every week for the last 14 years.
We're old queer activists and artists who share our stories in writing, images, performances, and political action.
Even with COVID-19, we feel privileged to be able to continue to meet weekly. Besides being an artistic outlet, Quirky is an important social support network. We look out for each other and we check in on each other.
We've learned over the years that we have to stand together and we have to speak out for our rights. We grew up in a time when we didn't have the same civil or political rights as everyone else. We fought to demand a rightful place in our society for women, people of color, and queers, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, two-spirit, asexual, and those who have yet to make up their minds.
Make no mistake, there's still work to be done. In many parts of the world, queer people have no rights and can be imprisoned or killed. Despite promises that government oppression will never happen again, governments change, and we've seen other countries backslide on LGBTQ rights.
And there are always new challenges. Elder queers' voices and experiences must be part of the discussions and decisions on these issues. We will continue to stand together. We won't give up.
And speaking of standing together, Quirky has a brand new anthology that we published this spring. It's called Together We Stand, Queer Elders Speak Out.
We tell stories from our experiences through memoir, comics, poems, and plays. Some are tender, some are difficult, some poignant, and many are funny.
You can get Together We Stand, Queer Elders Speak Out in print or as an ebook. Just order from your favorite bookstore or online or wherever you get ebooks. Search for Together We Stand, Queer Elders Speak Out, and watch for further launch events.
For more information on Quirky, contact Britannia Community Center. So long for now. We are Quirky. Together we stand.
Wow, that was wonderful. Comments?
How many members are part of Quirky?
Well, we say we have well, someone mentioned in that video 22. We have 25 is our max. We have some that are members that haven't shown up when we used to meet in person. But yeah, we have about, I would say, between 20, 22 active members. Yeah.
Do you guys engage with younger LGBTQ?
Yeah, one of the things that we did was, and it's still ongoing, although not so much right now. There was a group out in Surrey called Youth for a Change, and it was started by Jen Marchbank, who is a SFU prof, and she's in gender studies, and her kids were in together in Youth for a Change, and so we collaborated with them. And we've done presentations. When we did the Queer Elder Abuse Project, we traveled all around the province. There were some of the youth that traveled with us, and they were part of the videos that we also produced for that subject. And yeah, we're still in touch with them, and we've done quite a few things.
Nice.
Robin, you're smiling. Do you have a thought?
It's because now we meet every week, and in our group we have people doing different things. Like some of us are working on a play, which will probably go online as on Zoom, and it's all about when Trudeau gave the apology to the LGBT community. So that's the theme. There's another group who are working on graphic novels, another group who are working on fiction, and that we're working on a zine. Well, we're actually getting money to do that, and people are going to be contributing LGBT elders on what COVID, and the theme will be on COVID-19. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's almost too much. Very time consuming.
I turned my mic on when Charlotte asked, and I think I've been smiling ever since I listened to Sylvie's interview, and have taken me right through to that short video of Quirky. I think in both pieces, I just love the storytelling aspect of it, and how in the video, with all of the different voices chiming in, and the chorus that it created, I loved it. It was great.
Well, we organized the whole thing on Zoom meetings, like over and over and over again, and then when we did this actual filming, went through it about 4 or 5 times before people felt comfortable enough with it. Like I say, it's definitely amateur, but it was fun doing it, and it didn't turn out too badly.
That was very engaging. I mean, it gives ideas of, when we're talking about small groups making presentations on topics, that's a way that they could explore doing something like that with Zoom.
Yeah. Well, some of the people in Quirky, like, have had background in theater or in writing and stuff like that, and that always helps when we're, engaging in a new project. Makes a difference.
One of the hard things I find just personally, and others might find this true too, is especially when there's so many tiles of faces, and I want to know who I need to pay attention to, who's speaking, and I don't know if when this group considers maybe putting out a video, if there's a way that we can think of being able to identify easily who's got the microphone, whether that's a piece of colored paper that we hold up, or if we can frame that somehow, because I was really trying to focus on who am I looking at that's talking. I want to look them in the eye, so to speak, as much as you can on Zoom. And it felt tricky. I was looking around to see who that was.
Yeah, it's true, and there's a time lag too, and sometimes you can't even see the mouse going, so it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as we're going to be doing clinics, that might be one of the things we can get someone to have, do a clinic on. Because the clinic will be interactive, where we try and just see, what happens if we do this, we do it like this, do it like that. Gail?
Yeah, what we've done at Quaker Meeting is raise your hands, wave.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got, templates of 25, 30 people and the host, but it's a hard job to figure out who's waving and when. So any kind of those signals work. Nothing wrong with my chat button, because I wanted to tell you that I want to that I know what I'm doing. That I'm ready to, and I found my record button here, and then I'm ready to number 2, and it's a combo. It's a combination of how spirituality contributes to mental health in your profession, and he's an electrical engineer, and so it's very scientific. He's a real nerd, but he sees spirituality in the midst of the nerdiness. Interesting guy. We've been pals for 30 years, so yeah. So I'd like to contribute that if you folks are interested in that.
So if you put that's a type of interview. I mean, I'm going to be identifying people who want to do interviews, just as their activity. And so if that's something that you're interested in, you could just, put it in the chat.
Yeah, and I did put it in the chat, but I don't know if you can read it because my chat, I tried to put it in the chat, but it's not working.
Well, you could send me an email as well. Well, we're going into close to the end of the hour. So I had a poem to share, but I don't know whether anyone else brought a poem to share. Since these were our 2 main featured things, I didn't ask any of our poets to write or bring anything. But
can I just say, I have to go, but can I just say a couple really quickly before I go?
Certainly.
Okay, one is starting next Monday, 4/11 is starting our income tax clinic. So if you're a low-income senior, you can go there Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., hand in your income tax, and a volunteer will do it. And I think that's really important because, and as well, seniors who are on the old age security are going to get an additional $300 from the government as a COVID-19. And if you get old age security and the guaranteed income supplement, it will be $500, and that should come to us in the week of July the 6th. So those are my announcements.
Okay, and thank you for the guest you're bringing next week. And if people send me other questions, I'll email them to you.
Could I ask something? Is the OAS just going to automatically go into be deposited into your bank account?
It's supposed to, you don't have to apply for it. I don't know if you're going to get a check or it's going to be automatically in your bank account, but you're going to automatically get it.
You have to apply for it though.
No, you do not. Sorry.
Okay.
You do not have to apply for it. as long as you are getting the old age security, you are getting it.
Okay.
I've checked it out, and in fact, it gets deposited automatically if you get online deposits. So, and Charlotte, if you like, I have a poem, and it's very short, and it's actually I'm happy to see Robin here because I want to read this poem to her.
Okay.
Did she just disappear, or?
No, she's there.
Not on my, oh yes, okay. Hi, Robin. I took your advice. I have a word program that I can call up as beside that's, and it sits beside. So I have a poem called Erasure. The butterfly cannot see the beauty of its wings, but in the hologram that is the mind of God, every detail is captured to perfection. Every word ever spoken, every word ever written, every thought, however brief, every emotion ever raised, are added to the infinite capacity of this universe to remember. Every moment of every day that exists is a part of the space-time continuum that our knowledge comprehends so very little of. Erasure is what existed can never be. The poem once written can be altered, but however brief the moment, if it ever was, it still is. All is energy, and energy exists without closure. The decay of now is captured in the Barmatsuma, never erased. Every joy, every regret, every life, every poem persists without end. And the ceaseless eyes of our soul captures the data of our existence to post it on the wall of the black hole we call the universe. Thank you.
Wow. Lovely. Placed it on the black hole of the, I love that imagery.
Yeah, that was really nice. I like the first line, the butterfly cannot see the beauty of its wings.
I love writing poetry.
Okay. This weekend is both Juneteenth weekend and it's Father's Day. And so I'm going to share a poem that I wrote as a Juneteenth Father's Day poem. And I did it on the radio in LA a few years ago. And someone came to the station and wanted to buy the poem. Thank God for fathers. Thank you for the fathers who have followed your word in fathering children and nurturing them with love. Those who have invited you into their relationships, who have modeled your covenant in their family covenant. Thank you, God, for the fathers who braved it and endured the whip or the whip-like conditions of various workplaces, to put fruit in refrigerators, beans in pots, assure meat and bread on tables. Thank you for those who aren't too proud to serve delicacies to their families and friends. Thank you, God, for our men who've been so misunderstood, who media have scraped, sniped, and discouraged, for their courage to own their own images, to reclaim their heritage, to master sports and sport top academic honors, to build careers and own businesses, to stand on point and bring up the rear, to wash little hands and mend broken hearts. Thank you, God, for those men who lavishly give fatherly care on children not their own, who have the courage and patience to deal with sour attitudes, hot tempers, and terrible tongues. Thank you, God, for those who step up to the plate as coaches, mentors, teachers, and friends, who have the discipline to dry little girls' and women's tears without twisting their lives. Thank you, God, for the fathers who seek your face and presence within, who invite you to walk with them, who invite you to talk with them, who invite you to sing with them, who invite you to work and mend with them, who invite you to teach with them, who invite you to preach with them, who invite you to be their father and friend. Thank you, God, for fathers. And thank you especially for the fathers, grandfathers, sons, uncles, brothers, cousins, pastors, and friends you sent to share fatherly love with me. And that's my sister C.
Yes, yes, yes. Thumbs up on that.
Thank you, Charlotte. That was very nice.
So thank you for the fathers and people playing fatherly like roles in our lives that are on the line or airwaves today. And so that brings us to the end of another podcast. But what I have said is I ask people, we have some notes that people have sent, but people that are on the line today, who are the people that are most interested in doing or want to make the first story that they might work on doing, presentation that they work on with the group to make health? People that are interested in doing a health story. I know we have Emily Sue, another Elaine who called, and Poser, Judith. Judith, are you still interested in health? You sent me some notes and things at one point. Is that an area that you're interested in working with a small group on a presentation route? Judith, are you there? She might be away from, yeah. You have to unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. So I'm overwhelmed by the Feldenkrais project and Feldenkrais summit that I went to. It's so much information, and I was laboring under misconceptions, and I'm just getting clear of them. I don't know how much or how valuable my contribution would be, and I hate to do a disservice by not doing a more thorough presentation.
Well, in these small groups, the weight won't be on any one person. The mentor working with the health group will just get the ideas that we want to bring forth and then come into a design of a segment that would be done. So it's not like a whole lot that would be on any one person, but just how you would work together to make a segment on health.
Thank you, Charlotte, for the explanation. That sounds very appealing.
Okay.
Charlotte, I have a question, and that is that I'm working on the idea of using a prayer group as a healing modality, and it uses the principle that we are all connected to the field. And I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that. I'm in need of 7 other people who would like to get together as a healing modality for friends, family, and even people we don't know. So I'm open to that, but we can talk about that later if you like.
Okay, then do you need, if that were going to be like a segment within our podcast, would you need 7 people, or would what you do and present there be a way of helping to build to the 7?
No, what I'm looking at is just doing a little presentation about this healing modality and talk a little bit about the woman that has written a book called The Power of 8, and she's also written another book called The Field, and I would just talk about that as a healing modality and to put together a healing group would be either here in my library. We have a library in our building, so that's a possibility. But it's just the idea that I mean, the Buddha wrote it 2,600 years ago, with our thoughts we make the world. And that includes health. So
Okay, so I think there would probably be some other people that, would be interested in that, so we can note that. Um, some people have mentioned housing as an issue, and some have mentioned the idea of urban gardening. Is there a particular, or what, may I ask you, rather than speaking about people who aren't here now, Gail is interested in interviews. Jenny, did you have a particular area that you're interested in or passionate about seeing a presentation done? Or maybe working with a small group of a couple of other people to develop a presentation?
Me?
Yes.
Yes, I'll be interested in health.
Okay.
I presented a story at 411 before, and maybe I can do something with that.
Okay. And I know in the contact list I have your email, but I'm not sure that we have your phone number. So maybe you could just send me an email that have both so that
okay,
we could get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Leslie, did you have a particular area?
Well, I'm really interested in mental health because it's touched me personally. I don't know whether I'd be able to do any presentation on it, but it's certainly an issue I'd be interested in hearing perhaps and asking questions about. Particularly, and again, the way it intersects with homelessness and the fact that, there seems to be help for families and for, single moms, but single men with mental health issues seem to fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Maybe mental health we might do as a separate area from health because there's so many issues related to mental health. And there is a program that whoever owns the bus services, something mountain, little mountain,
Trans Mountain.
Trans Mountain, and the bus just don't fit together in my brain. But I know that they have employed some people as advocates. So they've taken some people who already work there, but they've given them special training as advocates. So maybe we could get a person with that connected with you. Okay, and Sylvie, were you interested in doing more interviews, or was there another, just scope area that you're interested in pursuing?
So you're particularly interested in sort of life story interviews or creative pieces like fiction, or I have been writing just sort of like essay type pieces, maybe op-ed things. I don't know if you'd have a place for that. For example, the whole idea of what to call ourselves. We've talked about that a couple of times, and I think we've kind of chosen seniors, although I don't think that's necessarily the best word. So I've done a little sort of, it's a light-hearted short thing about that. So I'm just not quite, is that something that perhaps I could do more of, those kind of essay type things or documentary type things, or no?
Yes, that along with interviews, there's one person, and we're working one by one. There's still some people having challenges with getting onto Zoom. Brian climbed that mountain this week and is on, and so there are other people. There's someone that really wanted to do interviews with centenarians and what they bring to the table as a kind of interview. But yes, we could talk further about
I think that was
and creative work.
Yeah, that I think, and that was initially, I think it was Alice who was talking about doing that interview. So I think that the what's in a name thing was all around that, like aging and that kind of thing. So that might work together if Alice is available to do her interview still, right?
Yes, we just have to work with, like I said, there are a few people that we still are working to getting challenged. So we're getting, now that the 411 Center is open, Oscar at the 411 Center does, people can make one-on-one appointments with people. So he has helped some people with the computer. so I believe, yes, we'll be able to get, in touch with her and help people bridge whatever the problem is, because there's no time soon forecast for when we'll be able to go back in and meet. But one thing that I asked Leslie, for example, if a person's problem with the sound just happens to be something with their unit or their apartment, whether we could have a person come to 1-in-1 and use a computer there just to do the Zoom, but do it in an area where there isn't, noise or interference from things that are disrupting your sound. Luke is waiting for whoever gives the clearance for spaces like Podstream for people to be able to come in. You don't know yet when people would be able to use Podstream.
We could realistically start that up anytime, but I'd like to be in sync with 411 in terms of what the policies are and cleaning procedures and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's right now just more of a last resort. If a person isn't able to get good sound using Zoom in their home environment, that maybe that one person could come, but it's not set up like for the small groups to come there and work. Small groups, if Robin or Dale, when they're working with the small group, they would probably do just an independent Zoom with you so that the 3 or 4 people could see each other and work together through their ideas. But there isn't a way set up now for 3 people to come into the 411 center, but just we're working as an alternative, that if it just can't solve a problem with the sound in someone's home, then that one person could come over and use their computer or one of our laptops at 411 to do their Zoom. Okay, does anyone have any questions or final closing comments? Adele, are you there?
She's muted, so if she's saying something, you won't hear her.
No.
Hey guys, I'm here.
Hi, Adele.
Hello. I've just been listening to you guys. Really cool, in-depth, what's it called? The little interviews you did there, guys. I'm proud of you. I really enjoyed it. I never thought to really ask a question to somebody who'd worked in the oil industry either, so that was really informative. So thank you so much for that.
Hi, Adele. I finally
Hello.
unmuted myself.
I need to bid you adieu.
Yeah, we're all saying adieu. So let's say
adieu. Adieu.
Yes, adieu.
We'll see you again.
Charlotte.
Bye.
So you have it, but I'll send you details.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Charlotte.
See you.
Bye, Adele. Bye, Adele.
Bye, Dale. Bye, Charlotte.
Bye, Neil.
Bye, Ryan.
Gail, you be well.